Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Bad Luck Gamer, and we're back with another really interesting archetype. This archetype is from the Edgewatch campaign. I think it's actually, what is it? Is it the Edgewatch campaign? It is the Agents of Edgewatch. Yes, it is. So if you don't want any potential spoilers, here's your forewarning. And I will say that honestly, this doesn't have too much that I would deem to be spoilery, though it does imply some things, and there's one named feat. So before we get to that one, I will also give another spoiler warning, just in case. And some news, we will be going back to running polls on the channel. We'll be running a poll starting this Thursday to next Thursday on what tabletop game we want to look into next for the first couple weeks of December anyway. So if you want to be in on that, just keep a lookout here on the channel. And obviously, if you're enjoying these videos, leave at least a like. And if you want to see more, subscribe. We got a lot of people who are also joining our Discord who've been binging these videos. So, you know, if you're doing that, you might as well join there too. The Discord is great, and we talk all things tabletop, including war games like Warhammer 40k. But enough of all that. Let's get on to the Edgewatch Detective dedication. So the dedication itself has a somewhat harsh requirements. You need to either have a 14 in intelligence or wisdom. So if you're a class that uses those, this is perfect. If you're not, that might be a bit of an investment. Either way, it's not too terrible. And with the dedication itself, you pick up the excuse me, the trained proficiency in either society or in thievery. And if you are trained in both of these, you get a skill proficiency, trained proficiency of your choice. So not bad. One extra skill proficiency for picking up the archetype. Not too terrible. The crazy thing about this is you can then use perception rather than survival for tracking, which is nuts. It's so good because what it means is that if you don't want to invest in survival, which, you know, has some more limited uses and obviously in an urban setting is almost, you know, completely useless, this allows you to use a skill that automatically upgrades with all classes. And now, while not all classes ever get to like legendary, for instance, most classes at least get up to at least master, which is pretty good. It means that you can be a very proficient tracker without really much skill investment. That's a huge advantage coming from the initial dedication feat here. It's very interesting. You also gain access to an additional feat, the experience tracker skill feat, which allows you to essentially, if you're tracking as a not downtime activity, as an exploration activity, you can move at your full speed if you take a -5 to your tracking skill in order to do so. Now it says to your survival check, I imagine the intent is you could use your perception for this instead. That would be the most sensical considering it. So I would run it that way, but rules as written, technically you would still need survival. So I don't know. And if you're master in survival, you don't take the -5 penalty. And if you're legendary, you no longer need to roll a new survival check every hour when tracking. All real good things. It depends on how your group does exploration activities. My group, this is actually really good because we play the exploration mode in a kind of modified dungeon crawling kind of mode. It's pretty much anything outside of combat. So extra movement is actually really good, but you know, it's good regardless. Beyond anything, the dedication of itself, giving perception for your tracking checks is nuts and is worth taking this at all, honestly. Like, that alone makes the dedication feat worth it, not even including the skill proficiency and the skill feat that you get. The first feat you can pick up from this is Sense Alignment, which is a 3-action activity, more or less, and it allows you to read the general body language of an intelligent creature, must be an intelligent creature, within 30 feet to pick up on subtle cues. The GM would roll a secret check and compare the results. If you crit success, you know their alignment. If you get a normal success, you pick a slice of the chart. So you either pick like good evil or lawful chaotic, and you know where they lie on that scale. So it's really good and really bad. I personally hate litmus test kind of skills because being evil does not inherently mean that the character has done anything wrong or has done anything wrong worth persecution. Being evil could be purely just being self-serving and dicking people over. Like a character who's lawful evil oftentimes abuses people in a lawful way. I don't like litmus tests like this that can determine a character's alignment, because then players can use that to really hardball into a character or as some kind of justification for attacking an enemy. I'm not saying this is everything in all groups. And everyone always mentions, well, that's not how it happens. Yeah, I know it doesn't happen at everyone's table. That's not the point. The point is it gives a kind of knowledge that is not incriminating. Being evil is not inherently incriminating, but it can cause the players to treat a character in a very different way. It's a very particular kind of knowledge that can cause issues, and it's honestly something that players have a hard time, I feel like, properly parsing what that information means. Now, if you do fail, you don't get anything, and if you crit fail, you discern incorrectly their alignment, and that also can be potentially a problem, because it can totally set your players completely off course for the campaign because they crit failed a secret check, and now they're doggedly pursuing it, a relatively innocent and good person, believing them to be some kind of master deceiver in some ways. I don't like this feat personally. I still see its uses, and it has a lot of good abilities. And not only that, but it has no minimum times you can use it. So for 3 actions, you're able to do this as much as you like. And it doesn't even state here, I'm reading it. Yep, it doesn't even state that the enemy would then become immune. But it is, I guess, yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, it's a secret check, right? So they wouldn't have a reason to re-roll unless the DM kind of gave them some kind of cues, and then that can be a problem. Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. I don't like this feat, but if you like this kind of feat, then this is a great feat to pick up. Honestly, it's one of the very few feats in the entire game, or it's, I think, the only feat in the entire game. The only other one is like detect alignment as a spell, which I think some classes can get as, or it's probably a feat they can give you detect alignment somewhere, but sense alignment is, I'm going to mark it as an okay because it's right between I don't like it and I can see it's good. So arcane sensitivity is a very strange feat. Essentially, you gain the arcane sense feat. Skill feat, though, you don't need to be trained in Arcana. You don't need to be trained. This is just another archetype feat, which is kind of weird because you could just pick something else like this up as a skill feat, which I feel is less painful. You can spend a single action to determine the magical aura as of anything present, as if you used the first level detect magic. This isn't a magical effect, so it can't be stopped by some kind of anti-magic if that comes up. That is not very common, but Also, I guess technically it can be interrupted. Yeah, it just has the effect, so it can't be interrupted unless... No, it has the concentrate trait anyway, so I don't know. And then you can strain yourself to essentially get the effects of the 4th level detect magic spell, which allows you to detect the school of magic. And when you do this, when you strain yourself, you must rest for 8 hours. So it should have just said until your next daily preparations. You can tell that some feats are written by people who are not necessarily on the main feat team, and that's okay. It's just wording like this gets confusing because it is different than other wording in the game. Anyway, as a archetype feat, I don't really like this one either. Just because I feel like Arcane Sense is better, though it has a skill requirement. So if you're very picky with your skill proficiencies, this could be good to pick up, especially if you're using the free archetype bonus rule, which I recommend everyone use, because this just gives you, essentially if you're not too worried about your archetype feats necessarily, you would have access to essentially a kind of weaker arcane sense. But let's go investment. So it's a trade-off, but I don't know. Again, another one that's very interesting. All right, for this next feat, it does mention a name specifically from the adventure path. So if you're not wanting to hear anything about this, or you don't want to see anything about this, leave now. You have 3 seconds. Okay, so last but not least, Bolera's Interrogation, another 3 action ability, though this one you can only use 3 times per day, which this is very unique. Actually, there's not many times in Pathfinder in general where a feat specifies anything more than once per day. It might have it might be tied to like a skill proficiency or a stat, like an attribute, but this is one of the very few ones, if not the only one, that's just 3 times per day. That's more than once per day, essentially. So, very interesting. What it does is also interesting. You focus your attention on a single creature within 30 feet. The creature must attempt a will save against your perception DC, which is pretty cool, actually. Some classes have an insane perception DC because of how they level up, so that can be really good, and it's also one of the few instances where a save is not made against something that isn't a class or spell DC. So very, very interesting. So they make a will save against your perception DC. On a failure, the creature finds itself unable to speak any deliberate and intentional lies and takes a -2 penalty to deception checks. On a critical failure, the penalty to deception checks is -4. This effect lasts for 10 minutes and as long as you're within 30 feet of the target and the target is aware that you're using this ability against it, which is strange. If you begin a new interrogation, the effect ends. Whenever the interrogation ends, the target is immune for 24 hours. So I don't normally read the feats as much as these are, but they're just so worded strangely that I felt like it's important for the context. So this one is also strange. It says, on a failure, the creature finds itself unable to speak any deliberate and intentional lies and takes a -2 penalty to deception checks. So given how that's worded, it means they can't lie, but if they try to tell half-truths, they take a penalty. And the penalty can be even bigger if they crit fail the check. Now, this isn't a spell. I don't know what you're doing to actively compulse a character to speak this way. I don't know how this works, is what I'm saying. It's not a spell effect. It doesn't state it is. You have some strange mental power that can just prevent characters from outright lying in front of you. I don't know how I feel about that. It's very strange. Not like it matters on a practical scale. I find this feat very, very strange. It's like, if it was just the penalties and not like the inability to lie, it would be way more understandable. But it makes them unable to lie, and it does say and take, so it's 2 effects. I don't know. Not only that, but the target becomes aware that you're using it on them. And in fact, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, this action doesn't even have like the concentrate traits. It's a very strange feat. It's not that I dislike it. I mean, for a level 6 feat that you can use 3 times, level 6 feat that essentially gives you the effects of a zone of truth. That's really strong 3 times a day. I don't know. It's a very good feat, but I would also say it is weird in a lot of ways, like thematically and in practice. I don't know. It's a good feat, and I think what the Edgewatch Detective does well is you make the perfect interrogation-based character. You're really good at prying information out of characters. You can sense when something is off, whether magically or with the, alignment, with sense alignment. You can use perception for tracking. That's the best part. Honestly, that's like the number one thing about this. I don't know. This archetype dedication is very strange. I think it's very good and potentially really powerful. But I do have my own little qualms with it. But I do think if you're using the bonus archetype feats, this is a really good dedication to pick up if your whole thing is being the interrogator in a situation or just being a general face. Honestly, it's a lot of good abilities, and it's not a very big archetype dedication either, so you can pick out pretty much everything in like your first go of it. Yeah, you get all but one of the feats before you can swap out. So it's a very easy one to make a big part of your character. So, I don't know. Let me know what you all think about the Edgewatch Detective down below. I think it's a very strange one, and I think there's some parts that have some issues, but I don't think it's bad, and I would let my players use this. But, you know, maybe your games are different. Let me know down in the comments. But with that, we're going to be ending this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.